Hey there, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you 6 different family dinners that cost only about $5. I know a lot of people, especially right now, are trying to save money, so this is going to be super duper helpful. I do also want to let you know we are not cutting corners. All of these meals are really delicious, so I hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump to my kitchen and start cooking. We're going to begin today with a simple, classic, fun one. These taco pizzas are awesome. So in my pan right here, I have a little over a half a pound of ground beef. I'm going to cook this ground beef up. Once it's thoroughly cooked through, I just removed any excess grease, and then I added about a half a cup of water and then a half a packet of this taco seasoning. Stir this all together and let it simmer for about 3 minutes. Over to my large baking sheet, I'm going to be spraying it with plenty of oil spray and then adding my 4 flour tortillas right on there. Of course, you could use more or less tortillas depending on your family's needs. And then I sprayed the top of the tortillas with more oil spray, and then I put it in my preheated oven to 350 degrees for about 10 minutes or until they were crisp like this. For the toppings for my pizza, I'm just going to be layering these refried beans first, just a little layer of them, and then the taco meat, and then plenty of cheese on top. You could really add any type of toppings you like to these pizzas, but I kept it fairly simple and budget friendly. So I baked these for about 10 to 15 minutes. While those were in my oven baking, I just diced up my 3 tomatoes. Buying tomatoes like this at the store is very, very budget friendly, so I definitely suggest it. Once my pizzas were out of the oven, I just topped them with the tomatoes. And just like magic, our taco pizzas are done. I love how flavorful these taco pizzas are. You can't really tell that you are trying to stay on a budget with them either, which is so nice. And like I said before, you could add whatever toppings you have in your fridge or your pantry to make them your own. Now we're going to be making this perfect homemade easy marinara sauce. You could even make a bunch of it at one time and freeze it for future meals. After I diced up my 1 onion into smaller pieces, I went over to my Dutch oven and added a tablespoon of olive oil. Once my oil was hot, I added the onion and I let this onion soften and saute. It took me around 5 minutes. Once it was soft, I added in my 1.5 cups of chicken broth, and then I gave everything a good stir. The rest of the ingredients I'm going to be tossing in is just 1 can of crushed tomatoes and a can of fire roasted tomatoes. For the seasonings, to give this plenty of flavor, I'm adding in a teaspoon of oregano, teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and 1 bay leaf. One thing that I typically like to add in that I didn't add in today is a 1/2 tablespoon of brown sugar. It just adds so much great flavor. And then the very last thing I added in was 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I gave this a good stir, and then I let it simmer covered for 15 minutes, and then I uncovered it and let it simmer for an additional 5 minutes. While we do have our marinara sauce simmering away, I'm going to take this time and boil up my 1 pound of spaghetti noodles in a pot of water. So now over to the marinara sauce. Now that it is through simmering, I'm removing the 1 bay leaf because nobody wants to accidentally eat that bay leaf. So now over to my blender. I'm just using my Ninja blender, or you could use a food processor. I'm adding the marinara sauce right in there, and then I'm going to process this all together until it's smooth. This part is of course optional. You don't have to do it, but my family does prefer really smooth marinara sauce. Of course, I sprinkled the top of my spaghetti with Parmesan cheese. This marinara sauce has such a nice, rich flavor. It totally beats any of the jarred marinara sauce at the store. And like I said before, you can make a ton of it at one time and freeze the rest. Now we're going to get started on this vegetable-packed taco pasta. To my Dutch oven, I have a tablespoon of hot olive oil in there. I'm going to be adding these peppers and onions blend. This is a 20-ounce bag. I only used half of it, so I only used 10 ounces of it. And then I also added 1 cup of frozen corn. I do want to let you know, if you don't have oil on hand or if oil is a little bit too expensive, you could always saute your vegetables in water. I've done that a lot of times in the past and it worked well, but while my veggies are sauteing, I'm just going to boil up about half a pound of these rotini noodles. Now that our veggies are soft and they are super fragrant and smelling really good, I added in 2 tablespoons of taco seasoning along with 1/3 cup of water. I gave this a really good stir to combine everything. And then now we're going to be adding in 1 can of Rotel. I just used the original Rotel, but you could use any type of Rotel you like the hot or the mild. Anyways, I gave this a good stir and then I let it simmer on my stove for about 5 minutes. After those 5 minutes of simmering, I just drained our rotini noodles, added them in, and now I'm going to mix everything together and then it's ready to serve. In my opinion, having to work on such a low budget for this dinner was kind of easy just because all of the flavors really came together nicely. It had a nice taco flavor, and then also this meal left me full for hours. It was packed full of vegetables and my entire family actually loved it. This seasoned chicken and rice meal has always been a go-to for me. It's actually one of the first things I made when I started to learn how to cook. So I'm just using this wild rice Rice-A-Roni packet. I get it from my store for about $1. You could find it on sale for 50 cents from time to time. But I love using these little packets of rice just because it's kind of like a shortcut. They have everything measured out. All you have to do is follow the instructions on the back of the box. So I definitely suggest doing that. It just is a really nice shortcut for dinner time. But once my rice is cooking away, I'm going to get started on my chicken. So in my pan, I have a tablespoon of hot olive oil, and then to the oil, I'm adding my chicken. So I'm using 2 chicken breasts that I sliced in half horizontally. So it actually appears as 4 chicken breasts. I love slicing them in half just because it makes them cook a lot quicker. They're more tender, and then I just think they're so flavorful like that. But I just season the chicken on both sides with a dash of onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, and salt and pepper. I cook the chicken for a few minutes on each side until it reached 165 degrees internally. I served my chicken and rice alongside of a frozen bag of mixed steamable vegetables. I steamed mine in my microwave, but all the seasonings combined together on the chicken almost gave it kind of like a smoky flavor. It was quite delicious. Also, all of the seasonings on the chicken are very inexpensive if you don't already have them yet. Now we're actually making a sheet pan meal for the oven. You could also make this on your stove if you don't want to use your oven right now though. I'm going to start out by cutting my veggies into smaller pieces. So 1 onion, 2 bell peppers. I used a green and a yellow bell pepper, but you could use any color bell pepper you like. And then 3 carrots. These are just medium-sized carrots. And then 3 red potatoes. I pulled out my sheet pan, lined it with parchment paper, and then I added my carrots and the potatoes on the parchment paper. Now I'm going to be drizzling them with a tablespoon of olive oil, and then for the seasonings, I'm using about half a teaspoon of onion powder, garlic powder, and paprika. You could use any type of seasoning you like for this though. And then I do want to let you know I baked these in my oven on 425 degrees for about 25 minutes before I added any other ingredients onto the sheet pan. And then if you were to do this on your stove, go ahead and just saute those veggies on your stove at this point. But now I just sliced up my sausage into smaller pieces. After my carrots and potatoes were starting to get soft, I removed them from the oven, and now I'm going to be adding the sausage to the sheet pan along with the rest of the vegetables that we cut up, and then 1 tablespoon of olive oil and a dash of onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. I kind of stirred everything together, and then I placed this back in my oven to bake for about 30 to 35 minutes. This is one of those sheet pan meals that has great bold flavor. I love how you could throw so many different items onto the one sheet pan, especially vegetables, and bake it. I also like how this meal is so inexpensive. Now we're going to be making these Dorito Frito pies. To get this one started, I'm going to be adding a little under a pound of ground beef to my pan. I actually got all the ground beef I'm using today in this video from Smith's. It was on sale, so I was really happy about that. It was a little bit fattier ground beef than what I typically buy, but it worked out just fine. After my ground beef was cooked, I'm just removing any excess grease. You see, this is my favorite trick ever to remove grease. Just wiggle a spoon in there with a paper towel and it works great. Now you'll want to either add a can of ranch style beans or a can of chili beans. I chose to do ranch style beans today, and then you will stir everything to combine. Now I'm adding in one smaller sized can of green chilies. If you don't know this yet, green chilies are actually super duper high in vitamin C, and they are not very expensive at all at the grocery store. So if you want to add anything else into this Dorito pie mixture at this point, you certainly can. But after I let this simmer on my stove for about 5 minutes, I removed it, and now it's time to assemble our Dorito pies. To the bottom of my plate, I'm adding a little layer of nacho cheese Doritos. We didn't even use half of the bag of the Doritos, so we didn't use very many at all. And then add a couple scoops of that ground beef mixture, a sprinkle of cheese, and then a little bit of diced tomatoes. Also, tomatoes are very inexpensive at the store, especially Roma tomatoes, so it's a great thing to buy to add some nutrition to meals. This dinner is so good. It has a nice, mild flavor about it, and then it is a fun twist on regular Frito pies. It's kind of like a more unique dinner that is still really delicious, and it will keep you on a budget. I have so many more videos like this on my channel, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any more in the future. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.